Hey, it's Steve. Welcome back to Clear Direct. So I'm here deployed on my last 6 months of active duty orders with the Air National Guard. And about a month ago, I thought I was going to go in October back to my airline job, my cush airline job. Well, obviously that's changed. So I fly for a US legacy carrier, and they've cut flights about 95%. I got hired in 2016, so I'm sitting about the 75% seniority. So it's pretty optimistic, to say the least, to think that I'm gonna have a job to go back to. So I've been thinking a lot about the 8-letter F, and I wanna share some thoughts that I'm thinking about, so join me.
I'm Steve Cox. I fly fighters, airliners, and general aviation aircraft. I'm into tech, travel, anything that flies, making friends and videos along the way.
Some pilots are optimists, me included, and are confident that immunity, vaccinations, or treatments will help avoid catastrophic furloughs. Plenty of pilots are pessimists, but most pilots are realists and are rightly concerned about this topic, so that's why I wanted to look into this despite most airlines avoiding furloughs so far. But we're still pretty early in this. Most airlines have reduced block hours, offered voluntary leaves of absence, excusing USERRA rights to guard and reserve pilots, and taking federal stimulus on the promise of not furloughing pilots until October. But depending on how long the economy takes to recover and on virus-based travel restrictions, it's hard to imagine a midterm future without some furloughs. So let's take a closer look at what that looks like. So how to tell if you're going to be furloughed? Obviously, you can't know that for sure right now. Let's say we find a vaccine tomorrow and we have a V-shaped economic recovery. At least the airlines that took the stimulus can't furlough until October, giving us a buffer for recovery. But a lot of the majors have cut their flights by 90 to 95%. Even if we recover to say 75%, that still puts a lot of us at risk of furlough. So let's say you're like me and at 75% overall seniority. That doesn't necessarily mean you're on the cut line if your company is down 75% of its flying. There are a few things you need to realize with the math. With a big furlough, your current seat and base seniority will decrease because clearly some junior captains will be displaced to smaller airframes or to the right seat, effectively lowering your position seniority. But let's talk the good news. While it is expensive for the company to pay pilots not to fly, it's even more expensive to furlough pilots due to displacement retraining furloughed pilots upon recall, and perhaps most importantly, the opportunity cost upon economic recovery. See, airlines want to position themselves to capture the market share, but it's only available to those companies who are ready to pounce with trained aircrew. The physical infrastructure is already there in the form of gates and iron. All right, enough of the will I or won't I. It's best to be prepared. So ALPA has a pretty good furlough checklist for pilots, even if you're not a member of ALPA. I'll link it below, and it informed the rest of this video. It's organized by phases: rumors or discussion of furlough, which is clearly where we are now, moving rapidly towards an announcement of furloughs, and then actual furlough, and then recall. So let's start in the first phase, discussion of furloughs. So let's start off easy. Ensure the union and the company have your up-to-date contact information and you're in good standing. Review the language in the contract and other resources on the union website, which include memoranda of understanding, which clarify or change some of the established language in the contract. My union has worked to get relaxed commuter restrictions in addition to all the other things I mentioned up top. And then they formalized them in MOUs, which obviously aren't found in the contract. Don't hesitate to reach out to your negotiating committee if you have questions or requests. These next two are my personal recommendations. We'll get to finances later, but I would argue that right now you need to be shoring up your monthly payments, not increasing them. So put off buying that Tesla for right now. Last, watch the rest of this video, like and subscribe it, and I'll post updates as I navigate this crazy period with you. All right. So furloughs are announced. What now? Step 1, prepare and refine your plan. Review which federal, state, local, contractual, military, ALPA, and other resources are available for you as you are furloughed. You're already ahead of the game by watching this. Step 2, create a list of all current and midterm, at least 8 months of expenses. Review all expenses with a critical eye. Review all possible income streams such as furlough pay, savings, selling assets, tapping 401k, unemployment, loans, grants, etc. My hope is that the legislators realize that Roth-style investments have already been taxed and thus consider removing early withdrawal penalties to help the workers and stimulate the economy. But that's just me. Create a rough plan that includes your financial considerations, include planned and foreseen future expenses such as interview clothing, shoes, travel expenses, etc. Don't forget to include necessary medical, dental, vision, and drug expenses. My contract has a section on furlough pay. It doesn't last long. Step 3, get mentally ready. Solidify your plan to address personal and family needs. Discuss that plan with your support system, your family, your friends, financial planner, etc. Be ready to implement your plan as your furlough date nears. All right, the dreaded pink slip arrived and you're furloughed. Step 1, process the fact that you've been furloughed and what the impact is on you and your family, hopefully through good preparation that has already occurred. This will more than likely take a toll on everyone. It sounds cheesy, and I'm quoting from the union checklist here. Consider the 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Each person moves through these stages at a different pace. Being furloughed can feel like you've lost someone. This is normal, albeit very stressful. End quote. You can also reach out to the Union Pilot Assistance Committee. Step 2. It's time to execute. Apply for all applicable federal, state, local, contractual, military, ALPA, Union Plus, and other programs. Step 3, get a job. Get a job. Look into your state unemployment programs designed to get you back into the workforce. These funds go by different names, albeit some with stigma, so try to get over that, such as Title VIII or WIA, and have benefits such as medical assistance, job search, and retraining funds. They sometimes even include a type rating. If you're a member of ALPA and encounter medical certificate issues, contact ALPA. It's free for furloughed members. So, some airlines such as United and Delta provide preferential interview credit to furloughed ALPA pilots in their contract. Network with other pilots. They might have a lead on a job that they weren't qualified for, but you are. Consider your search area. Will you be limited to jobs within a certain geographical area? Probably like me. Will you consider overseas jobs? What expectations do you have? Will you take the first available job and continue to look for a better job? Look into attending job fairs, review online employment sites, and connect with other furloughed pilots. Consider the fact that it might take a while to get another flying job, especially if applying for an overseas job. Think about how you're going to stay flying current. A list of job search websites, resume prep, and interview tips can be found in the description below. The Air National Guard or Reserves can be a great option for you whippersnappers 35 and younger. This could be a great time to volunteer for service. Talk to your local recruiter or write me in the comments if you have any questions. So apparently lieutenant colonels drive captains around nowadays. Is that how this Air Force works in the millennial era?
Hear ye. Retention, bitches.
Step 4, health. There's a lot of good information in the ALPA checklist regarding your health, but I don't want to be too preachy, and I've identified some areas of the checklist that are lacking, so I'll just leave your personal health alone, but just to say, take care of yourself. The ALPA checklist doesn't address health insurance. My contract's language is very vague, and it's unclear to me whether I'd have access to health care on airline furlough. Let me know in the comments what your company does. Another segment missing from the checklist that I find vital is debt. If you have loans, reach out to the originator to see what deferral they may offer. There seems to be more flexibility than usual given wide economic reach of this pandemic. Step 5, family, and I quote, discuss these important changes with your family. They are directly affected by your furlough as well. You will have to probably cut back on the things the family took for granted but can no longer afford. These are difficult discussions, but important ones. A counselor, books, and online resources can assist with preparing you for age-appropriate discussions. Your spouse might have to go to work or increase their work hours. This might create a role reversal in which you stay home full-time and can be new and awkward. The next section in the checklist deals with recall, but I'll save that for a future video when it's a little more applicable. The one thing I'll say about recall that's good to know right now is that if you take an alternate job, you could gain some valuable rights upon recall if you disclose it to your chief pilot and union, such as ability to bypass recall. This should be spelled out in the contract. All right, I'll end by sharing a little about where I stand through all of this. As I mentioned, I'm scheduled to retire from the Air Force in October. So, freak, why don't you delay your retirement? Great question, but the answer is very simple. I currently live 200 nautical miles as the Bonanza flies from my kids, and the military retirement allows me to live much closer. But many of my bros have delayed their retirement, which makes good sense for them. It's kind of ironic how the military pilot shortage was solved so quickly. So if I'm furloughed, I'll receive 1 month of furlough pay for each of my 5 years of completed service with the company. That plus my military retirement will allow me to live for a short while without finding another job, but I've got my feelers out there. Ideally, this channel takes off and I can help pay the bills, but that's a ways off. By subscribing, you'd sure help me out with that. Luckily, health insurance will be covered by my military retirement and VA benefits. I was planning on buying or building a house in Bend, Oregon, but those plans are on hold. I'll probably rent until my projected income and the real estate market has stabilized. So after this deployment, I plan on shaving the stash and spending as much time as I can with my kids since they're at the age where they still think I'm cool. Well, maybe not my 13-year-old girl. I was planning on traveling to New Zealand and Southeast Asia in October, and I'm still really hopeful that that still can happen. But if it does, I'll probably have to shorten the length of the trip to save money. If money wasn't an issue, it'd be the perfect time to start building an airplane, but you know, maybe I'll just restore an old Bronco or something. Clearly, this will delay a lot of our upgrades to captain or bigger equipment and may change our retirement savings schedule and assumptions. So if I'm lucky and avoid furlough, I may have to still change my domicile so that, you know, my commuter plans may differ. I know some of my colleagues are frustrated that this happened in a contract year for us, and we're pretty much guaranteed to not get the raises that we expected. But that actually allows for fewer pilots to be furloughed. Also, our company had quite a bit of cash on hand, which will allow the company to furlough less pilots, hopefully, allowing a faster response to an economic opportunity and will hopefully translate into a larger market share. This would accelerate a future hire and then boost my seniority. And now, I'm not trying to downplay the frustrations with the companies. You know, there's plenty to be had. Let me know in the comments below what you're thinking, what's frustrating you, and how this will affect you. So take care of yourselves, your families, your passengers, and this too shall pass. Until next time, you're cleared direct.